Caught my pregnant girlfriend in bed with another guy, and he tried to kick me out. I had been with my girlfriend for nearly 8 years. We were 27 and 26, and although we had our ups and downs, I thought things were steady. I traveled frequently for work, and it always seemed to bother her. She hated the trips, convinced I might be unfaithful while away. She had been cheated on in the past, so I understood her fears and did my best to reassure her. I stopped drinking on trips, avoided interactions with women, and made sure to call and text her whenever I could. I wanted her to feel secure, but despite all my efforts, her trust in me never felt complete. She was pregnant, and I knew that might have intensified her paranoia. Sometimes she'd wake me up in the middle of the night sobbing on the phone, just because I hadn't responded to her text within a minute. I tried to comfort her, explaining that I wasn't doing anything wrong, but it hurt to know that she couldn't fully trust me. The weight of it made me feel depressed at times. Last Tuesday, I decided to come home early from one of my business trips. I wanted to surprise her with something special: flowers, tickets to a movie she had been wanting to see for months, and even a ring. I had been thinking about proposing for a while, and it felt like the right time. I was excited to see her face light up when I showed her everything. But when I pulled into the driveway, I noticed an unfamiliar car parked outside. I didn't think much of it at first. One of her friends had recently gotten her license, so I assumed it was hers. I let myself in and heard music blasting from upstairs. It struck me as odd. She usually hated loud music, but I brushed it off as I headed up to our bedroom. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I opened that door. There she was, my girlfriend, with some guy I had never seen before in my life. I'll spare the details, but it was exactly what you'd think. Shock doesn't even begin to describe it. The guy was gone within 15 or 20 minutes, and then it was just me and her. We had a full-blown shouting match. She was furious at me, accusing me of all sorts of things, like not being around enough. She yelled at me for not taking her out on dates anymore, accusing me of probably cheating on my business trips. It was infuriating because none of it was true. Even when I was exhausted from work, I always made an effort to take her somewhere nice. As for the cheating accusations, a complete lie. I had given her my social media passwords, constantly reassured her, and shown her in every way that I was committed to her because I loved her. But something inside me snapped. The betrayal, the shouting, it all built up until I couldn't take it anymore. In a fit of anger, I packed up all her things and threw them out onto the cold, rainy street. She screamed even louder, but I was beyond reason. My head was pounding, and her voice only made it worse. I didn't think. I just grabbed her and threw her out too, slamming the door behind her. I shouted that the locks would be changed, and that she shouldn't bother coming back. When the door closed, everything went silent except for the storm outside. I called off work for 2 weeks, citing a family emergency. That whole week, I did nothing but drink myself to sleep. I was heartbroken, lost in the mess of everything that had happened. As I tried to numb the pain, I began to face the hard truths I was avoiding. People told me to stop drinking, get tested for STDs, and make sure to get a paternity test when the baby was born. I realized I needed to separate our finances, talk to a lawyer, and take the necessary steps to protect myself from this chaos. There were other pieces of advice too, like refusing to sign the birth certificate until I was sure the baby was mine, and seeing a therapist to work through the emotional toll. I knew I needed to find a way out of this insecure, codependent relationship which had drained me for so long. It wasn't healthy. I was always defending myself, giving out my passwords, texting back immediately, doing anything to prove I wasn't doing something wrong. But deep down, I knew I deserved better. This wasn't how a relationship should be. I needed to learn how to build something based on trust, not suspicion and constant doubt. It was time to figure out how to heal and move forward. Yes, absolutely. I've been in a similar situation before. In a past relationship, my girlfriend acted the same way. Always suspicious, constantly asking for my passwords, and even going through my chats with other people. It was toxic, and I was miserable. I'm so glad I didn't end up staying with her. That was years ago. Eventually, I met my wife, and she was so different, much more mature, not clingy or needy. We just trusted each other from the start. She never once asked for my passwords or tried to read my private messages, and I didn't feel the need to do that with her either. Trust really does go a long way in a relationship. Thank you everyone for your comments and private messages. I appreciate it a lot. I'm sorry I can't reply to everyone, but thank you. I'm currently getting therapy, and I've stopped drinking. I'll be posting an update soon. Sorry it took me a while to post this update. I've been incredibly busy with everything that's happened. First off, I want to address a few things I noticed in the comments. To those accusing me of being some kind of predator, screw you. We were both born in the same year, just a few months apart. I was born in May, and she was born in December. Secondly, I know I shouldn't have thrown her out into the street, no matter how angry I was. My anger doesn't excuse my behavior. I admit that I should have left the house myself, maybe gone to a hotel or stayed with my parents for the week. For those curious about what happened between me and the guy she was cheating on me with, it got ugly. He refused to leave and even tried to kick me out of my own house. It escalated into a physical fight between us. It only ended when my ex threatened to call the police and demanded that the guy leave. Eventually he did. Lastly, for those doubting my story about the flowers, movie tickets, and engagement ring, let me clear things up. I had bought the ring a month earlier. When I was about to leave for the airport on my trip, I bought the available tickets to the movie online. Everything I did that day was meant to be a surprise for her, a way to show her how much she meant to me. But clearly, things didn't go as planned. I bought the flowers from a nearby supermarket in town, just something simple but meaningful. If anyone has more questions about this whole situation, I'm happy to answer them. Now, here's the update. As I mentioned in my edit, I'm currently in therapy, working through everything, her cheating on me, my anger, and my drinking. It took that night for me to realize how bad things had gotten. Her betrayal was a wake-up call, forcing me to confront some things I had been ignoring for too long. Since then, my ex hasn't stopped calling and texting me, begging for forgiveness, saying we can work things out. She's even been trying to gaslight me into letting her back into the house, telling me things like, "You can't just throw your pregnant girlfriend and your own child out onto the streets," and "This baby is yours. You need to take responsibility for it." But I'm done. I should have ended things the moment she started acting this crazy, but I kept holding on, hoping things would change. Now I see the truth. She even tried to break into my house today. I immediately called the police, and they detained her for a few hours before letting her go. I'm not sure why she didn't get arrested. Her parents have also been coming after me, blaming me for kicking her out and saying she's now stuck living with them until she can afford a place of her own. I admit wholeheartedly that I was wrong to put my hands on her and throw her out onto the streets. I know that was a terrible decision, and I take full responsibility for my actions. But right now, I'm focusing on moving forward. I'm looking for a new house in a different town, trying to leave this place behind. There are too many bad memories here, and I just want to escape it all. Thank you to everyone who sent kind comments and messages. I'm sorry I couldn't reply to them all. My head's just not in the best place right now. But your support means a lot to me. This may not be the update some of you were expecting, but I needed to clear a few things up before I step away from Reddit. Yes, I'll be getting a paternity test as soon as the baby is born, and I'm also considering a restraining order, just in case she tries to pull another stunt. I'm taking things one step at a time, but I'm determined to rebuild my life. Once again, I apologize if this isn't the update some of you were hoping for. I just needed to get some things off my chest. Also, I'm sorry if this post is a bit long. I truly appreciate everyone who reached out through DMs to offer advice and kind words. It means a lot to me, and I hope that life rewards you for your kindness. Thank you, and I love you all. If anything significant happens, I'll make sure to update you immediately. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for allowing my niece and nephew to destroy the house by not disciplining them after my sister-in-law instructed me not to discipline them? My brother Casey, who's 32, is much older than me. I'm 17. He's married to my sister-in-law Mandy, who's 36, and they have 2 kids, my nephew Nick, who's 3.5, and my niece Maya, who's 2. Recently, Mandy asked my parents if I could babysit Nick and Maya. She needed to visit her mom, and the original babysitter canceled last minute. I had never babysat Nick and Maya before, and to be honest, I don't have much experience babysitting kids under 5, but my parents begged me to help out, and they offered to pay me, so I agreed. Babysitting Nick and Maya turned out to be a complete nightmare. It felt like they had never been told no or forced to behave in their entire lives. They were drawing on the walls with crayons and markers, trying to flush bath toys down the toilet, throwing themselves on the floor and screaming for candy. The chaos just kept coming. I was overwhelmed, so I called Mandy to explain what was going on. I told her that I was trying to manage the situation by having Nick and Maya stand in the corner for a timeout. Mandy ended up coming home early, but not to help with Nick and Maya. Instead, she was furious with me. She told me that I wasn't allowed to discipline them because I'm not their mother, and that I needed to learn my place. Last Friday, Mandy begged me once again to babysit Nick and Maya. She wanted to visit her mom again and couldn't find another babysitter. My parents pressured me into agreeing, even though Mandy made it clear once more that I wasn't allowed to discipline Nick or Maya. At this point, I was pretty sure the reason she couldn't find an actual babysitter was because of this ridiculous no-discipline rule. So I decided to follow her instructions to the letter. I kept an eye on them to make sure they didn't run away or do anything too dangerous, but otherwise, I let them do whatever they wanted. By the time Mandy got home, the house was an absolute disaster. She was livid. She even tried to convince my parents not to pay me. Thankfully, my parents stuck to their word and paid me anyway, saying a deal is a deal. But they were disappointed in me. They told me that even though Mandy's no-discipline rule was silly, I could have found better ways to keep Nick and Maya occupied, like crafts or playing hide-and-seek. They said that instead of being spiteful and immature, I just let the kids destroy the house. As for Casey, he hasn't said anything about the situation, but honestly, that's not surprising. He's more of an absentee father. He spends most of his time at work, and when he is home, he acts like the fun uncle, leaving Mandy to handle all the actual parenting. I'm looking for an unbiased perspective here. Am I the a-hole? Now, for the advice. Maybe I could have redirected the kids, but maybe not. And without being able to discipline them, I had no real recourse if things went off the rails, which was almost certain to happen. I'm pretty sure this is why Mandy couldn't get a real babysitter for Nick and Maya. I might only be 17, but I'm not stupid. I'm done babysitting for them. Don't babysit these kids again. Just throwing that out there. I know it's family, and these kinds of issues might eventually blow over, but unless I'm actually allowed to run the house and make decisions, I'm not doing it again. If my parents back me up, and if it's their house I'm in, then maybe I'd consider it. But here's the thing. Part of being an adult, even a young one, is being able to make decisions, especially when you're responsible for kids. You need to feel like you have the authority to manage situations appropriately. Nobody gets it right all the time, but how can you be an effective babysitter for kids like Nick and Maya when you're being treated like a kid yourself, yet expected to handle things like an adult? You're not the a-hole here. That's all for now. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you.